Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be tackling a pretty interesting question. This one actually came from you, our listeners. You want to know, can AI be a fair judge of other AI?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. So it's like, imagine, we're setting up an AI talent show.
Oh, okay, I like this.
Right. Complete with judges and contestants, but instead of like singers and dancers, everyone's a computer program.
All right, I'm intrigued.
So to help us unpack this whole thing, we've got an AI expert here with us today.
Yeah, I'm really excited to dig into this. The research you guys sent in really gets to the heart of like how we're going to be evaluating AI, and not just that, but how we're going to be improving AI in the future.
Yeah, and the paper that you sent is called JuStRank, Benchmarking LLM Judges for System Ranking.
That's the one.
I know, the title might sound a little intimidating, but trust me, we're going to break it down.
Yeah, no worries. We got this.
So basically, it's about using AI, specifically those large language models we hear so much about these days, to judge the performance of other AIs.
And that's where things start to get interesting. You know? Because we're not just asking these AI judges to grade a single answer on a test, are we? We're asking them to actually look at the big picture.
Yeah.
Look at a system's whole entire performance and then rank them.
So it's like, it's not just who hit the highest note one time. It's like, who's the best overall singer?
Exactly. But, and here's the real catch. Can we really trust these AI judges to be fair?
Oh, yeah.
Or will they have, maybe their own favorites? Will they be biased? Just like human judges sometimes are.
All right, now you've got me hooked. So the paper starts off by talking about instance-level judging versus system-level judging.
Right.
And they even have this helpful visual in Figure 1, and I gotta admit, that really helped me get it.
Yeah, visualizations always help.
It's basically like the difference between, like you said, judging one performance versus judging someone's overall talent. Right?
Yeah, that's it. That's the core difference.
Yeah.
And you know what this research actually shows? It shows that just because an AI is really good at judging individual responses, like, giving scores on a test or whatever, it doesn't automatically make it a good system-level judge.
That makes sense, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like saying that someone who's, really good at critiquing a single dance move, they could just automatically go and judge a whole choreography.
So even if an AI, gives really accurate scores for individual tasks, it could still have this, hidden preference for certain types of AI systems.
Exactly. Right. And you could imagine how those preferences could end up, skewing the overall rankings, making some systems look way better or way worse than they actually are.
Oh, wow. So we're already starting to see some of the potential pitfalls here.
Right. It's not so simple.
So how did the researchers actually, test this out? I know they created something called the JuStRank benchmark.
They did. Yeah. And this benchmark was designed to really put those AI judges through their paces. So they used, a pretty challenging data set, 500 complex instructions, and a bunch of responses from 63 different AI systems.
63 different AI systems. Whoa, that's like a massive AI battle royal.
Yeah, it was a big one. They wanted to be really comprehensive in their evaluation, right? So they had 48 different AI judges, including some of the big names that we all know, like GPT-4, but also some smaller, more specialized models that are designed specifically for evaluating AI output.
So like a mix of, the veteran judges and then some up-and-coming rookies.
That's a good way to put it.
Did they all judge in the same way?
Nope. That's where things get even more interesting. So the researchers had the AI judges use all sorts of different methods. Some of them gave numerical scores, right? Others used scales, like very bad to very good.
Oh, yeah.
And then some of them even compared responses to a fixed model, kind of like a benchmark or a gold standard. They really wanted to see if the way you ask an AI to judge actually affected its rankings.
Okay, yeah, starting to see how tricky this whole thing can be. Did they find any surprising results?
Yeah, well, one of the big surprises was that some of those smaller AI models, specifically the ones that are designed for, evaluating responses, they initially performed just as well as the much larger, more general purpose models.
Really? Huh, that's interesting. I kind of thought bigger was always better when it comes to AI.
It turns out that's not always the case. Sometimes having a more specialized, really focused AI can be just as effective, if not more so, than using a giant one. especially when it comes to judging.
So you're saying you don't always need like the biggest, most expensive AI to get the job done.
Nope, not always.
That's good news for, people who are worried about the cost of all this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the researchers found something else, too, that's really important for anyone who's going to be using AI, and that is the way you ask an AI to judge. It really matters.
So in the paper, they call this judge realizations, right? But like, what does that actually mean for someone who's, not an AI researcher?
Okay, think about it like this. You're asking a friend to judge a singing competition, right? Some friends are better at, like giving those direct scores, like out of 10, while other friends are better at like comparing two singers side by side.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
And it's kind of the same with AI judges. Some of them are better at just giving straight up scores, while others are better at making those, head-to-head comparisons. So using the right judge realization, the right way of asking, can really change the whole outcome.
So you're saying you kind of need to know the strengths and weaknesses of your AI judge and like tailor your approach accordingly.
Exactly.
That makes sense, I guess. Like even AI judges have their own, personalities in a way.
That's a great way to think about it. And speaking of personalities,
Yeah.
the paper actually goes even deeper. It explores this really fascinating concept called decisiveness in AI judges.
Okay, now I'm picturing like those reality TV judges who are like super opinionated and they always know exactly who they love and who they hate. Is that what we're talking about?
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, some AI judges are kind of like that, They're very decisive. They're quick to say, this system is way better or this system is way worse than another. While other AI judges, they're a little more hesitant,
Yeah.
They're less likely to give those like super extreme judgments.
So we got bold, confident AI judges, and then we got like the more cautious, hesitant ones.
You got it.
And the paper looked at how this decisiveness actually affects their judging,
Let's
right?
get.
Man, this is getting really interesting. But unfortunately, we're going to have to pause here for now. Don't worry, we'll pick up right where we left off in part 2. Okay, so we're back, and I'm still thinking about those decisive AI judges. So, are we saying that like a really opinionated AI judge is actually a good thing?
Well, it can be. It really depends. I mean, think about it. If a judge can quickly, identify those clear winners and losers, that can really speed up the whole process of finding, the best AI systems. But like with anything, there are always downsides, right?
Yeah, I was just thinking that. What about those AI systems that like maybe have a lot of potential, but they don't immediately stand out? Would a super decisive judge just like totally overlook them?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's the trade-off you see. A highly decisive judge might, they might miss some of those hidden gems, or they might be too quick to dismiss a system that just, needs a little bit more time to develop a little bit more refinement.
Okay, so it's a balancing act, right? You want a judge who can like spot the best performers, but also give everyone a fair shot.
Exactly.
But before we get like too carried away with, AI personalities, I think we got to address the elephant in the room here.
What's that?
Bias? Can AI judges actually be biased? Even if they're, just lines of code?
Well, unfortunately, yeah. The research actually found that even AI judges, they can have preferences. And sometimes those preferences, they can be unfair.
I knew it. I mean, it makes sense, right? After all, these AI judges are trained on data, and data can definitely reflect like the existing biases that we see in the real world.
Exactly. That's the key point. The paper actually gives some specific examples of this. For instance, they found that one AI system called Athene 70B.
Athene 70B.
Yeah. They found that it consistently got kind of a boost from a lot of the judges, even when its performance, wasn't really any better than other systems.
So Athene 70B was like the teacher's pet.
You could say that.
Yeah. Always getting extra credit just for showing up.
Right. But then on the other hand, they found that another system, GPT-4 0613.
Yeah, 613.
Yeah, that one was often penalized by the judges. It was getting lower rankings than it really deserved.
Poor GPT-4 0613, always in the corner, wearing the dunce cap.
Right. It's like it highlights the fact that we can't just blindly trust AI judges. You know what I mean? No matter how advanced they seem, we always have to be aware of their limitations and really scrutinize those judgments that they're making, just like we would with with human judges.
So what's the takeaway here for, someone like me or anyone really, anyone who's trying to figure out like which AI system is actually the best for their needs? How do we avoid being, misled by these potentially biased AI judges?
That's a great question. I think it really comes down to being an informed consumer.
Yeah.
Don't just accept rankings or scores
Yeah.
at face value. You got to dig a little deeper. Understand how those rankings were actually generated. What kind of AI judge was used, what were its strengths, what were its weaknesses.
So basically we got to be like AI judge detectives, right?
Yeah,
Always looking for clues about potential biases or unfairness.
exactly.
I'm starting to realize this is way more complicated than I initially thought, but it's also incredibly fascinating.
I know, it's really interesting.
It's like we're like peering into the future of decision making, and AI judges are right at the center of it all.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. I think, this research, it's not just about evaluating AI systems. It's about, like, understanding the very nature of judgment itself
Oh, wow. Yeah.
and how we can ensure fairness and accountability as AI takes on, a bigger and bigger role in our lives.
Man, I'm going to be thinking about this for a while, but I have one more question for you before we wrap up. So we've been talking about AI judging AI, right? But what if the tables were turned? Could an AI system actually learn to manipulate these judges? Could they like get a higher ranking without actually being better?
Now, that is a thought-provoking question. That's a really good one. It's like asking, could a contestant on a talent show figure out a way to game the system?
Yeah.
Win, even if they weren't the most talented.
Exactly. It's like it opens up this whole new can of worms. Could we end up in this like AI arms race where systems are constantly trying to like outsmart each other and manipulate the judges?
It's definitely a possibility. As AI systems get more and more sophisticated, they could learn how to exploit those weaknesses in our evaluation methods. It's a big challenge, but
Yeah.
the researchers they're definitely working on it. They're trying to develop more robust, more reliable ways to evaluate so we can withstand these kinds of attacks.
It's just this constant game of like cat and mouse
Yeah, exactly.
with the researchers trying to stay one step ahead of the AI systems that they're trying to evaluate. Man, it sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. But hey, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. And, well, we've reached the end of part 2, but don't worry, we're not done yet. Join us for the final part where we'll continue this conversation and unpack some of these really complex and fascinating ideas. All right, welcome back for the final part of our deep dive. And man, we've been exploring this whole idea of AI judging AI, and I gotta say, it's gotten pretty mind-bending.
Yeah, no doubt. It's definitely a complex landscape we're navigating here. But, these are the kinds of questions we need to be grappling with as AI becomes more and more a part of our everyday lives.
Absolutely. And, I'm a little worried about this idea of AI systems actually learning how to game the judges. It feels a little bit like we're opening Pandora's box. You know what I mean?
I get that.
Yeah.
I get your concern. But I think it's important to remember that, at its core, AI is a tool. And just like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad.
Yeah.
It really all comes down to how we choose to design it, how we choose to develop it,
Yeah.
and how we choose to deploy those systems.
So it's not about like fearing AI. It's about, being responsible with it.
Right. It's it.
Making sure we're building in those, safeguards from the very beginning.
Absolutely. We need to be thinking about those ethical implications now, not after something happens.
Right.
And that means, having these open discussions like the one we're having right now.
You know what? This makes me think about something we haven't really touched on yet. We've been so focused on AI judging other AI.
Right.
But what about the reverse? What about AI judging us?
Ooh, that is a huge question. And it's definitely one that's becoming more and more relevant as AI gets used in more and more areas of our lives.
Yeah, exactly. I'm thinking about, like job applications, loan approvals, even like legal stuff. Could we see a future where, where AI is actually making the decisions that directly affect like our lives, our livelihoods?
Well, I mean, in some ways, we're already seeing that, right? We're already seeing those early examples of AI being used for things like, resume screening, for credit scoring, even for risk assessment in criminal justice, unfortunately.
Wow.
The key here, the real key, is making sure that those systems are fair, that they're transparent, and that there's actual accountability built in.
So all this stuff that we've been talking about, all this stuff about AI judging, AI fairness, bias, transparency,
Mhm.
it all becomes even more important when you're talking about, AI judging humans.
I totally agree. You're absolutely right. We cannot just assume that, that an AI system is automatically going to be fair or that it's automatically going to be objective. We really have to actively design them that way. And then we have to keep monitoring them, to make sure that they're actually aligning with our values and our ethical principles.
It's a big responsibility, and it's one that we can't afford to take lightly.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I'm really glad we had this conversation. It's really given me a lot to think about, and I want to thank you and, of course, our listeners for bringing this research to our attention. It's really opened my eyes to, how complex this whole world of AI is, and how important it is that we're asking the right questions.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure diving into this with you. And to our listener, I really encourage you to keep going, keep exploring these topics and, engage in these conversations because it's really important.
That's what the deep dive is all about, right?
Yeah.
Encouraging that curiosity, encouraging that critical thinking, and helping everyone get a better understanding of the world around us.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So until next time, stay curious and keep those knowledge-seeking gears turning.